Welcome to Paradigm Shifts, new thinking about our changing times with your host, Harriette M. Steinberg, practicing matrimonial and family law, real estate, trust and estates, and elder law. You can watch episodes on YouTube and listen through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and more. For prior episodes, go to www.lawyersonli.com. Now here's the host of Paradigm Shifts, Harriette Steinberg.
Good morning, and welcome to another episode of Paradigm Shifts. Today, I have a practitioner who is very skilled in paradigm shifts as she deals with her patients. Her name is Sharon McDermott. She is the owner of Healthy Living. I think I got that right, Sharon, yes?
Healthy Healing.
Healthy Healing, thank you. And I'd like to introduce Sharon and ask her to explain one of her areas of practice. We're going to hear from her about all of her areas, but particularly acupuncture. So, Sharon, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's my pleasure. You know, I believe that acupuncture is a wonderful practice for people, particularly, people who live in the world of stress. And certainly my worlds, matrimonial worlds, trust in the estates, elder law, all kinds of disputes remain in that area. And I have personally found acupuncture to be a wonderful assistant to living in that world. But can you tell me a little bit about how you see that practice, what has caused you to end up being an acupuncturist to begin with?
Okay. Sure. So my road started way back when I went back to school a little bit later in life and went to Hunter College. And I was looking to do something that would integrate the mind and body. I actually didn't find it there. I was thinking about, because I have a dance background, and psychotherapy. So I was looking at psychotherapy as a psychology major, maybe doing dance therapy, but decided against that because mainly you don't make too much of a living, and I didn't really want to work with an extremely ill population, mentally ill. But then I found acupuncture through a friend of mine who was already going to school for it, and he said, well, maybe this is something you'd like to try. And so I actually tried it on myself. I went to the clinic at the school, and I really was blown away by the medicine and how well it worked. And so I said, I think this is it for me. So I signed up, and of course I went to school for another almost 5 years. So yeah, and I had my son in between. I was going part-time, and I was working a job and all that, and sort of winding down the dance career. So that's how I got into it. And, I didn't know anything about the world of Chinese medicine before that. But what helped me was the fact that I had a lot of sinus infections, throat issues, sore throats, and sinus headaches all the time. So they really worked on that. And I changed my diet a little bit and took herbs. And, within about 4 months, I was feeling a lot better. And so to me, that was really an indication that there is something else out there other than just popping antibiotics and other forms of medication that can help your body heal. So that just, really convinced me. And then when I started going to school and seeing how vast, the Chinese medicine can help different conditions, how, open it is, and it's been done for thousands of years. So that's really how I got into it, and been practicing for the last almost 20 years.
Wow. Well, I'm impressed with the idea that Chinese medicine has been here, maybe not used as much as it should be, for what, 2,000-3,000 years?
Yes, in China, and here in the United States, acupuncture was licensed in the 1970s. But it's been through a lot of fluctuations in terms of resistance from the AMA, which is American Medical Academy Association, and other groups that didn't really want it, but we have persevered, and most of the states have some kind of licensure now for it.
So what is the basic principle, if there is one, that you can give us or describe to
Yeah.
us?
It's it's based on these concepts of basically energy fields, thinking of it as these sort of traveling electrical currents in a way, electrical magnetic field, which they've proven that the body does have that. So, but we're tapping into that on a deep level. And the Chinese basically through trial and error just went through like each part of the body, finding these spots, which are the acupuncture points that actually do something to the body. And some are what we call empirical. They just help, without research, we just know it helps something, but there are over 365 points on the body. There's many more than that. But, these are what helps. We can access that energy and change it. So what we're doing is changing the flow of these, if you want to say electrons, protons, all that, crazy stuff that you would, study in physics.
Right.
It's kind of more related to that. And Western is more related, although we do work with chemical imbalances in the body, like hormones, which is what a lot of what I do. But anyway, it's, really about changing that flow of energy. So we look at if there's a deficient area of energy or an excess amount of energy. It's all based on the yin and yang concepts in Chinese philosophy of yin and yang making the whole. If you've ever seen that picture of a ball with sort of like two fish looking squiggly things coming together,
Right.
and one has a white hole in it and the other one has a black hole in it. So that, or a black circle. So that's the idea, all based on nature, what they observed, and then transferring it to the body. So how things become imbalanced in the body and how we treat it through these channels or these meridians. And each meridian is based on an organ system. So for instance, liver, lung, heart, kidney, we could keep going with all the organs. And then we base our diagnosis on what's going wrong in that particular organ system.
So let's say you have a patient that is not really having any real symptoms to complain about, but is under a great deal of stress because of a lifestyle.
Yeah.
How would you approach that person?
Yeah. So, obviously, even in my practice, I talk when people first come in because I need to find out their medical history. But then we also talk about what's going on in their life. Like you said, what is causing that stressor, right?
Right.
So is it, an acute stressor, or is it a chronic stressor? Is it something that's going to end soon, or is it something that's going to be long lasting? And the people that you deal with are usually in sort of more of a chronic situation. It's probably something that's going to be more than a couple of months, sometimes
Right.
not.
Yes.
But the thing is what happens in the body is continually trying to adapt. But what it does is it shoots up your adrenals to provide you more energy so you can have action. So it's that response that in our old brain has about when something's happening and we're stressed and scared, like trying to get away from an animal, the adrenaline kicks in so you can deal with it. The problem is that when you have chronic stress, you overuse that adrenaline and it's sort of like you're putting your foot on the gas, but there's no gas there. So, it just causes an extreme amount of stress on the body, but then you're feeling it internally. So what acupuncture does is it calms all that down. It re-regulates your nervous system. So it's called your parasympathetic nervous system. So all the stuff that pertains to you breathing and your pulse, and all those types of your heart rate and all that. So it brings it down. It actually lowers all of that. So it'll lower your blood pressure, your heart rate. So it'll stop that feedback loop of the adrenals constantly pumping out. There is something called adrenal fatigue that can happen. So, that's how we bring all that down. And then of course, people have usually a lot of muscle tension, right? Everybody sitting at their desk, more tension from stress, like particularly in your upper neck and body area, so that I can work on that at the same time. So that's the beauty of the medicine. You can do more than one thing.
And you also work with herbs, yes?
Yes, so I'm a board certified Chinese herbologist, and that requires, obviously the training when I went to school. It's a master's level program. And so it's all herbs that are indigenous to China that we learn, which again, they've been using for thousands of years. And we generally don't use a single herb. We use them in a formula, and then we have to learn all these formulations. And it's really like another language. But we also have to learn the Latin. We have to learn what's called the pinyin, which is the the English translation of the Chinese word. And so that's what we do to treat, instead of giving somebody, you know, a pill, medication, a drug. These herbs work synergistically together so that it mitigates any side effects, first of all. And then it helps, like if one's moving energy up, the other one helps to move energy down. If one's a hot substance, the other one's going to be more cool in nature. So we're looking at all the different attributes of these herbs to put them together and how they're going to work well formulated together. So that's also the beauty of herbs, because most of the time people are not going to have these, terrible side effects that you can get from drugs. So, and it's working at a deep level in the body too.
So, this is fascinating, and I'm wondering if you start working with herbs and you're taking certain medications from the doctor, how do you coordinate that?
Yeah. So I just look at that. I would say the medications that are probably most problematic are the blood thinners. So, your heparin and, drugs like that. But I can still do herbs with people like that, because you just time it, you just leave like a couple of hours in between when they're taking their other medications. And the way that I dispense them is usually I do it usually through a capsule, a tablet, or a granule form. I'm not having people do raw herbs, although that's the way traditionally,
Yes.
it's done. And some people do. Or they cook the herbs, but it's just a big process. There is one place where we can get it, where it's what we call vacuum packed. So they do the processing of the herbs, and it's in a liquid format. So, there's different formats for that, but generally we can, I can dispense those herbs. It depends on the person. It depends, what they're going through. When I do fertility treatments, if they're doing a lot of hormones, some doctors will allow me to do the herbs and others won't. So I kind of have to be aware of who I'm working with and that. But generally it's not as big as
one doesn't preclude the other.
No.
I see. Can you ever get to a point where you'll stop the Western pill kind of thing?
Yeah. I mean, I have had people, get off their medication, or, almost, it's like they're at a very low level.
Right.
They just, they don't want it because they're on this, they get side effects. And, doctors tend to, once you're on a medication, you're not going to get off of it. So it is, if I'm willing to work with them and they work with their doctor, I don't really intervene with the doctor that much. It's up to the patient to really advocate for themselves and to, speak to their doctor and say, look, I'm trying this. I want to see. But yes, sometimes people do actually get off their medication.
This sounds like a terrific paradigm shift. And I would suspect that part of working in your world is having people be open to a new approach, and this is one of the reasons why I've invited you here, because I have experienced the benefits of a different approach, of a paradigm shift. And I'm hoping, we can spread your word. And so tell me, I know you have done something else. You are a birth doula, which sounds very exciting. Not for me. I'm past that for sure.
Of course.
Yes.
So am I.
Yes. So tell us about that practice.
Yes. So because I was doing, and I still am doing fertility work, helping women get pregnant and stay pregnant, because miscarriage is another part of that issue. But, I wanted to see the baby on the end. And so the birth doula is a woman who helps another woman, assisting her just with comfort, advocating for her needs and rights, particularly in the hospital, making sure she's comfortable, helping maybe the partner, helping her to make decisions on what she may or may not want in terms of intervention, whatever that may be. So I got trained with that. That's a certification. There's a group here on Long Island that I did that through. And, it was very, very interesting to kind of look at that as a miracle of life. I mean, I'm still in awe, when I see women birth. Yeah. And so that's what that is. That's what I do. And, it's very fulfilling when you do it. It can be a long, hard night. It's usually about at least 24 hours. So,
So how do we tell people about this service and this idea of having a birth doula?
Yeah, I think women are definitely more aware of it now. It's not covered by insurance, so it's a personal, private decision to do it. You have to pay out of pocket. Many doctors, it depends who you are, and nurses like to have the doula in the hospital because the nurse cannot be at the bedside really helping. They're loaded with paperwork. They do actually come in, of course, monitor. The doctor is not really there much. So it's really good to have that person there. And we do have, I have stuff on my website. Obviously we have an association here. It's fairly good here on Long Island as far as people knowing about it, but in general, people don't know what it is. And there's, just more education, I think, that's needed about it. New York State was doing a pilot plan under Medicaid. I don't know what the situation of that is right now, that for a certain, income level. But there's, a lot of things that are going on with maternal care right now. And it propelled me actually into writing a book.
Yes.
So.
Do you have the book?
Yes. So,
let's see it. Show us.
So this is the book. Unleash Your Inner Goddess, How to Experience an Empowering Pregnancy, Labor, and Birth. And because of what I saw, I actually did a sort of like an internship at Winthrop Hospital. And then I've been, doing my own private births. Some things were good, some things not so good about what I was seeing. Women not being heard, women also not feeling comfortable and also confident in birthing, just in being, number one, pregnancy, number two, birthing, not getting all their questions answered. Again, like not feeling listened to, and just wanting to give them more information on what questions to ask. Which kind of doctor are you looking at? So what questions should you ask them? What are the maternal mortality statistics? It's for, Black and brown women, it's not great here in the United States. And, other things like, what are these procedures? What do they mean? What happens when you get an epidural? And not to say that they won't get one, but maybe they won't, so it's just having more of this information. I also weaved in goddesses, this idea of these attributes of these mythological archetypes, and, trying to get women to understand that you can, not that you have to be perfect or anything like that, but that you can have these strengths and you can do this, and this is just, so I give some examples of women that I had supported and sort of their archetypes and who I saw they were like in terms of goddesses, and other women in our history right now that I feel that are kind of, fit some certain archetypes. So like I mentioned Nancy Pelosi and Tarana Burke, who was part of the Me Too movement. So it sounds like it's a lot putting in there in this little, it's not that big. It's only like 140 pages or something like that. So, yeah.
But it's a great idea to promote and empower women in a very different way,
Yeah.
And
exactly.
So one question that I have, when you are a birth doula, do you meet with the patient or over time, or is it just at the end of the pregnancy?
No, we meet at a prenatal, preferably at least 2 months before the due date. and then I can meet with them again, again, if they want me to. Then I stay with them through the birth, about an hour after the birth, to try to help mom with breastfeeding. And then after that, I go to the home about 1 week after the birth.
Oh, how nice.
I provide herbs if they want it. I usually do provide a herbal soup to help the energy, the chi in the blood, and to help with breastfeeding, that type of thing. I mean, there's a lot of different things I can
aspects. Yes.
Yeah. But yes. And there's a lot, if they want any kind of information, I can text them or we can talk on the phone. So there can be a lot of communication going back and forth with, any questions they may have about, anything. Yeah.
So just before we leave, what's the best way to contact you, Sharon?
So the best way is you can contact me through my phone number, 516-410-4297. Also my website, which is healthyhealingli.com. Or you could, get me through email, healthyhealing12@gmail.com.
Wonderful. Let's see. Anything else that you want to add to the description of your practice, or give a shout out to someone that you think we should speak to?
Yes. So I think we went over a lot of the things about my practice. Also, I talk about nutrition a little bit in there, which we didn't discuss, but, it's a holistic thing. So, nutrition is obviously very important. The person I probably shout out, just because she's a nutritionist herself, is Tracy Cleary from OsteoStrong. It's a franchise for people who have osteoporosis and osteopenia. And I've been using her because I have osteoporosis. So, it's a very natural process. There's no, not taking any drugs. And also she's a nutritionist, like I said. So you can get her at Pure and Simple Health.com. I believe she has a site. Her name is Tracy Cleary.
Okay. Well, I really enjoyed listening to you describe what you do so well. And I would say to everyone who listens to today's presentation, this is a paradigm shift that people really need to consider in terms of taking care of your health. And Sharon is a wonderful practitioner, and I highly recommend her. So thank you, and thank you, Sharon.
Thank you. Thank you, Harriet.
Thank you for listening to Paradigm Shifts, new thinking about our changing times, with your host, Harriette M. Steinberg, practicing matrimonial and family law, real estate, trust and estates, and elder law. You can watch episodes on YouTube and listen to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and more. For prior episodes, go to www.lawyersonli.com.